That slap didn't
How could
echo
you do
loudly,
this to me?
but it tore the entire room apart. Amid the crystal lights and the clinking of champagne glasses, the man she once called husband raised his hand. The diamond-ringed palm struck her cheek, sharp as a whip's crack. She didn't cry. The crowd held its breath. Only his lover, a woman in red, curled her lips into a smile, her triumph gleaming like fresh blood under the lights. She was carrying a tiny life inside her, and in that moment, she understood that her world had just ended. But some endings aren't meant to bury, they're meant to open the door for someone else to emerge. Someone they had no idea they were about to face. The crystal chandeliers in the Ritzmont ballroom blazed like artificial suns, reflecting shards of gold and wine across the ceiling.
How could you do this to me?
The music swelled and swayed. The crystal glasses clinked like a countdown clock, signaling something approaching that none of them could yet imagine. In that sea of people, Evelyn Carrington, the woman once hailed as New York's luckiest lady, stood alone, her hands clasped over her belly, faintly feeling the unborn child's weak heartbeat. She was 6 months pregnant. This should have been the most beautiful time. But the baby was growing amid the cold walls of a marriage built on contracts and status. Adrian Carrington, her husband, a financial investment tycoon, chairman of the Carrington Group, stood across the room, in a radiant circle of financiers and politicians. He was tall, handsome, his smile exuding the kind of power that made others easily forget the darkness behind it. Beside him, Miranda Vale, a woman in a dress red as fire, leaned in to whisper in his ear, and then both burst into laughter. That laughter cut into Evelyn's heart like shards of glass. No one in the room needed introductions. Everyone knew Miranda, the acclaimed fashion designer, and according to whispers, sweet as honey, Adrian's private muse. The gala was ostensibly to raise funds for the city's Art Revival Foundation, but everyone understood it was just a stage for Adrian to flaunt his influence. His name was engraved in gold on the backdrop, while Evelyn's face, though still smiling, had become cheap jewelry in that perfect play. Since marrying Adrian, she'd grown used to the prying stares. "She's so lucky," they said, a ordinary librarian catching Carrington's eye. They didn't know how costly that luck was. She'd traded her peace, her freedom, and finally her self-respect. Evelyn moved slowly through the hall, her dark green silk gown brushing lightly over the marble floor. She smiled at those congratulating the future mother, but in their eyes, she was just an accessory. Every compliment was a velvet-wrapped knife. In Adrian's world, smiles were weapons, and kindness was a fatal weakness. The music shifted to a tango. Couples began gliding across the dance floor, but Adrian remained there with Miranda like two blazing torches in the room. A Society magazine photographer approached, asking them to pose. Evelyn saw the flashbulbs pop, capturing the moment Miranda's hand rested lightly on Adrian's chest, his smile directed at her, the smile he'd forgotten to give Evelyn for months. She turned away, gripping her juice glass tightly, trying to stay calm, but then a cold voice rang out behind her. "You should be glad he still lets you come along," Charlotte Carrington, Adrian's mother, said, her voice sweet as poisoned wine. "But don't forget, Evelyn, in this world, honor is fragile, and women like you only hold their position as long as they're useful." Evelyn clenched her hands but didn't respond. She liked seeing her hurt, and tonight, she had reason to side with Miranda, the woman from the same class, the same bloodline. The microphone crackled, and Adrian took the stage. He raised his champagne glass, speaking a few words about philanthropy, art, the future. And when he mentioned the woman accompanying me, Evelyn stepped forward on instinct. But Adrian didn't turn. He extended his hand toward Miranda. The room erupted in polite applause. In that moment, Evelyn heard nothing more. The music, the laughter, the lights all blended into a blinding wave. She stepped back, her eyes fixing on the leftover wine glass in his hand. A drop of champagne fell to the floor, golden, slick, cold as tears. Then it happened. As she approached, her voice trembled but clear. "What are you doing, Adrian?" He turned, his face ice cold. "You're embarrassing me, Evelyn." "No," she replied. "You are—" The slap rang out, dry, precise, ruthless. No one had time to breathe. She didn't fall, just tilted her head to the side. A tiny drop of blood trickled from the corner of her lip down her chin, glowing under the lights. Miranda stood nearby, lips curling, the proud smile of a victor. In her eyes, Evelyn was just a small storm that had been quenched. But on the other side of the room, amid the cold crystal light, something else was awakening in Evelyn, not fear, but an awakening. The slap didn't end anything. It only started a war that Adrian had no idea he'd ignited. Rain began to fall as the luxury car stopped in front of the old stone building in the Upper West Side. Evelyn didn't wait for the driver to open the door. She stepped out, her low heels slipping on the soaked sidewalk. Her arm still ached where Adrian had grabbed and yanked her before walking away, leaving her amid the lenses and pitying whispers. This apartment had been her home before marriage, a small sixth-floor unit overlooking the park. Adrian had told her to sell it, because Carrington women don't live in bird nests. She'd kept it, partly for nostalgia, partly for a hunch. Tonight, that hunch saved her. Inside, the air was musty, dusty. She didn't turn on the lights. The whole room was dark, only the street lamp's glow filtering through the mottled window. Her satin dress was torn at the hem, dried blood at the corner of her lip. She knelt on the floor, arms around her belly. "It's okay," she whispered. "We're okay, my love." The baby kicked faintly, as if in response. The rain tapped rhythmically on the window frame, steady and merciless. Her phone rang incessantly. Calls from Adrian, from lawyers, from unknown numbers. A message popped up from an old friend in journalism. "I'm sorry, Evie. The video's gone viral." Evelyn stared at the screen, the blue light reflecting in her sunken eyes. The clip was only 12 seconds long, but enough to shred Adrian's reputation and hers. In the video, he was like an angry god, and she, a pregnant wife, standing frozen in a room full of guests. A drop of blood, a slap, and Miranda's triumphant smile. That scene, captured by dozens of phones, had become breaking news across social media. To the world, she was just the billionaire's slapped victim. To Adrian, she was a threat. She turned off the phone, tossed it onto the old sofa, then collapsed to the floor. The pent-up sobs broke free. She cried for everything, for the love she'd believed was real, for the crushed pride, for the unborn child who would bear that man's name. Amid the crying, a strange feeling flooded in, not just despair, but absolute emptiness. And in that emptiness, there was room for something else. Will. Early the next morning, she woke on the floor, pale sunlight piercing the curtains. Everything was eerily quiet, eyes swollen, lips cracked, but inside, she no longer trembled. Evelyn walked to the old mirror in the bedroom, staring straight at her reflection. The bruise on her cheek had turned dark purple, but in those eyes, something new, a cold light, hard, and absolutely alert. She opened the closet, pulled out an old wooden box she'd kept since her father was alive. Inside were a few old items, a letter, some notebooks, a small metal key, and a photo of a middle-aged man in glasses, her father, whom Adrian had once called that useless scholar. She picked up the key, examining it for a moment. Etched faintly on the bottom, Street, Augustine Trust, private box. Memories flooded back. Her father had spoken of something for when you need to stand alone. She'd laughed then, thinking it was just idle talk. Now, those words echoed in her head like a command. That afternoon, she donned an old coat, a wool hat, and left the apartment. Outside, New York hummed as if no one had been destroyed last night. Billboards blazed, traffic roared. People hurried while she drifted through them like a ghost. The Street Augustine Bank was on Fifth Avenue, an ancient building with a white stone facade and a golden eagle emblem. She entered, heart pounding. The elderly manager looked up, glanced at her, then the key. A flash of surprise crossed his face. Then he nodded and led her to the basement. The safe deposit box was among hundreds of metal drawers, but when opened, it held no money, just a thick envelope and a USB. On the envelope, in handwriting, "For Evelyn, when you have nowhere left to hide." She opened the envelope. Inside was her father's letter, the scent of old paper like a breath of memory. "If you're reading this, life has treated you cruelly. But don't fear, Evie. Dad won't leave you bare in this world. I've prepared a path for you." His voice echoed in her head, gentle yet firm. "This USB contains everything about the investment I've quietly built for 20 years. Scion Holdings. You are the sole beneficiary. Use it when you need freedom." Evelyn stared at the tiny USB, feeling like she held an entire destiny in her hand. Out there, the media storm was turning her into entertainment. But here, in the cold underground, she'd just found her first flame. She clenched her fist. "Freedom," she whispered, "and justice." As she stepped out of the bank, sunlight bathed her face. People on the street passed by, unaware that the woman publicly humiliated last night had just found her weapon. Monday morning, the city buzzed as if no scandal had occurred. On the front pages of financial papers, images of Adrian Carrington and his red-dressed lover dominated. Sensational headlines: the Ritzmont slap, billionaire Carrington out of control, the silent pregnant wife, hung at newsstands along Fifth Avenue. Evelyn passed them quietly, wool hat pulled low, hands clenched in her coat pockets. In her pocket were the USB and her father's letter. Inside the letter, a short handwritten note, simple. "If you need advice, find Walter Hemsworth, room 47, Sterling Trust Tower." The name stirred a faint memory. A silver-haired man who'd visited when she was little, bringing rare books for her father. He'd always called him Thomas, the man who understands this world better than anyone, though he chose to leave it. Evelyn had never known what they really did together. Now, stepping into the lobby of Sterling Trust Tower, a soaring glass building reflecting Manhattan's sky, she felt like entering the domain of men like Adrian. All sleek, silent, and expensively intimidating. But she was no longer afraid. She just felt empty, and emptiness made one calmer than ever. The young secretary saw the card, Walter Hemsworth, partner, and nodded, leading her to the private elevator. When the doors opened on the 47th floor, the scent of oak and leather wafted in like the breath of another world. Walter's office wasn't like the cold financial offices she'd imagined. Walls lined with bookshelves, an antique pendulum clock on the desk, and a steaming teapot. The man looked up as she entered. He was over 60, silver hair tinged with copper, kind but sharp eyes. "You must be Evelyn," he said, voice deep and gentle. "Thomas's daughter." Hearing her father's name, her throat tightened. "You knew my father?" Walter smiled. "Knew him? Thomas and I built Scion Holdings together. He was the brain, I was the hand. When he left the market, I promised to protect his legacy until you were ready." He set down the teapot, gesturing for her to sit. "It seems that time has come." Evelyn sat, hands still trembling. "I don't understand. My father was just a librarian. He—" "Not just that," Walter interrupted, not harshly but like a revelation. "Thomas was one of the finest financial strategists of his generation. He knew real power wasn't in those at the banquet tables, but in those holding shares they didn't know existed. When he withdrew, he transferred everything into a trust Scion and left it to you." Evelyn fell silent. Everything spun in her head. "This USB is the key." Walter nodded. "It contains the full portfolio and trust rights. According to my records, Scion currently holds over 20% of Carrington Group, the company your husband runs." She froze. 20%? "Yes. You're the largest shareholder outside the Carrington family. Meaning," he paused, letting the words hang, "no major decision can pass without your signature." The room grew so quiet Evelyn could hear her heartbeat. She remembered the slap, Miranda's smile, her mother-in-law's contemptuous gaze. All flashed like cold images, suddenly erased by a new realization. She had power. Walter watched her face, eyes mixing sympathy and respect. "I know you're in pain, Evelyn, but heed an old man's advice. Don't use this power for revenge. Use it to reclaim yourself." Evelyn looked up. "You think I'll destroy them?" He smiled sadly. "Thomas's daughter? No, but I think you'll do what they never expect. Force them to see you not as a betrayed wife, but as the legitimate heir to this chessboard." Evelyn took a deep breath, gazing out the glass at the Carrington Tower looming on the skyline. That building had been a symbol of power, domination, now just a reminder of her humiliation. But perhaps, soon, it would become something else, a symbol of reclaimed justice. She turned to Walter, voice unusually calm. "I want to learn. I need to understand how this world works. My father believed in intelligence. So do I. Teach me how to use Scion." Walter nodded slowly, as if he'd waited years for those words. He pulled a thick folder from his drawer, placing it before her. "Then we start here from the very numbers Adrian Carrington thinks he controls." Evelyn placed her hand on the folder, feeling the cool paper under her palm. She didn't know how far she'd go, only that this path had no turning back. Outside, afternoon sun glinted off the Carrington Tower's glass walls, shattering into countless shards like thousands of broken mirrors. Evelyn looked into them and saw her own reflection, no longer a victim, but one beginning to rewrite the story. Mornings at Sterling Trust were unlike anywhere else. No noisy phones, no hurried footsteps, just the rustle of pages and the light scratch of pens on charts, the soundtrack of a world where money was the only language. Evelyn sat in the glass room beside Walter, facing stacks of reports that a month ago she couldn't even read the titles of. Now, she scanned them with a predator's eyes, learning to scent blood in the water. Walter taught her everything from share structures, voting rights, to minutiae like insider transactions or cross-proxies. She discovered Carrington Group wasn't just an investment firm, but a web of dozens of subsidiaries and money-laundering shells. At the web's center was Adrian, who'd used company assets for his lavish life, hidden affairs, and bought board loyalties. The numbers, seemingly soulless, began telling stories. An unusual cash flow from Carrington Development to Vale Design and Consultancy, a name that chilled Evelyn's spine. Miranda Vale. Turns out Adrian's lover hadn't just stolen her love, but was draining the company. Millions transferred as consulting fees for non-existent projects. Evelyn leaned back in her chair, eyes glued to the spreadsheet. "You see, Walter? This is evidence." Walter didn't look up. He just asked, calmly, "What do you want to do with it?" She was silent a moment, then said softly, "I don't want the press. Not yet. I want them to destroy themselves." Walter smiled, the rare smile of a seasoned man. "You've got it. Power isn't in shouting loudest, it's in making others speak for you." The lessons stretched into evening. Evelyn learned market cap flows, share accumulation, and shareholder proxies. Each concept like a sharpened bullet in her mind. When Walter asked why she was so determined, she simply replied, "Because I don't want my child growing up with the Carrington name as a curse. I'll make that name clean again, or make it vanish." That night, back in the old apartment, Evelyn spread the documents across the table. The desk lamp cast light on her face, tired yet radiant. On the wall, she pinned yellow sticky notes. Adrian, chairman. Charlotte, founding shareholder. Miranda, shell company. Red strings connected them like arrows. A map of rot. Mid-note taking. Her phone buzzed. A message from Adrian. "Adrian, you think going silent will make things better?" "Evelyn, what do you want?" "Adrian, the media wants interviews with you. Refuse. If you say one wrong word, I'll bury you with my lawyers." She stared at the words, calm terrifyingly. "Evelyn, you've already done that, Adrian. But I'm not in your hands anymore." No reply. She set the phone down, looking at the ultrasound photo on the fridge. "You won't carry the Carrington name forever," she whispered. The next morning, she returned to Sterling. Walter waited with a thick folder. "I've dug deeper into the transactions. Adrian's trapped in a leveraged debt he dares not let anyone know. If we control another 10% shares, we can force a special oversight vote, and then everything he's hidden will come to light." Evelyn frowned. "But we need capital." Walter tilted his head, eyes full of implication. "Scion has plenty of tech stocks, all profitable. If you agree to sell part, we can buy more Carrington shares this week." She was silent a few seconds, then nodded. "Do it. And don't let anyone know." 3 days later, the trades began. 3 different brokers quietly bought Carrington stock under Scion's proxy. Small blocks, staggered waves, not large enough to alert. Each afternoon, Walter sent reports. 14%, 16%, 18%. Evelyn told no one, didn't leave the house. She lived among the numbers like a prophet reading omens in the world of finance. At night, she listened to classical music, wrote in her journal, and when fear crept in, she placed a hand on her belly. "We'll be okay," she told the child. "We'll be stronger than them." A week later, Walter called. "Up to 21%, he said, "and I just found this." He sent a file. Invoices from an Aspen resort where Adrian claimed he was treating stress, clearly listed. 2 people, Adrian Carrington and Miranda Vale, paid with company card. Evelyn stared, then laughed a small, thin laugh, sharp as glass. "You're right, Walter," she whispered. "Numbers speak." and when they do, no one can silence them. The news broke on a Monday at 8 a.m. Major financial sites blasted headlines. Carrington Group accused of internal embezzlement, stocks plunged 12%. Who's behind Scion Capital's stealth takeover? In hours, Scion's name was everywhere in media. To investors, a new ghost rising. To Adrian, a nightmare from an unknown source. In the 68th floor office of Carrington Tower, Adrian hurled the newspaper down. "Find me who leaked the report. Anyone," he shouted, voice raging. Assistants, staff, all bowed silent. Charlotte, his mother, sat opposite, unnaturally calm. She didn't yell, just stared at her son with ice-cold eyes. "You're losing control, Adrian," she said slowly. "That slap didn't just damage your image. It made shareholders doubt your competence. Now, one more mistake, and they'll boot you from the chair." "I won't let it happen," Adrian ground out. "I'll find who's behind Scion Capital." She leaned back, eyes narrowing. "That name sounds familiar. Scion. Seems Thomas Evelyn's father mentioned it once." The name froze Adrian. His mind flashed to the old apartment, Thomas's books, and his little daughter, the one he'd promised to protect forever. "Impossible," he muttered. "Evelyn knows nothing about finance." Charlotte smirked. "You underestimate women, especially the wounded ones." Those words hung like an omen. Meanwhile, in the 6th-floor apartment overlooking the park, Evelyn read the online news. Stock charts flickered on screen. The ticker below: Scion Capital raises stake to 22% in Carrington Group. She sipped tea, said nothing. Laptop light reflected on her serene face. Everything was on track. Walter called. "The storm started. Their reaction will be fierce. You ready?" Evelyn nodded faintly. "They chose to humiliate me before hundreds. Now I'll return the favor before millions." She looked away from the screen, out the window. Below, crowds hurried, unaware a power war was brewing over New York's sky. That evening, in the grand living room of the Carrington mansion, Adrian and Miranda sat together. She scrolled her phone idly, lips curling at social comments. She deserved a slap. Who could stand a demanding pregnant ex-wife? Miranda's the woman Carrington needs. Those vicious words soothed Adrian's ego like balm. But Miranda paid little heed. She saw what Adrian didn't: public opinion shifting. "You should log off social media," she said softly. "The wind's not blowing your way anymore." "What do you mean?" "People are curious about her, about the slap, the video, and now, about Scion. They want to know if the woman in the video is really as weak as she seems." Adrian laughed scornfully. "Evelyn's nothing. She just reads books." Miranda shrugged. "Maybe check the shareholder list again." The next morning, Carrington Group opened in chaos. Investors dumped shares. Rumors of shadow shareholder panicked all. Amid it, an article appeared in the Financial Chronicle by veteran reporter Valerie Kent. Scion Capital mystery behind Carrington collapse. A hidden female shareholder holds veto power. The piece didn't name Evelyn, but hints were clear. Family ties to Scion founder. Relation to the Carrington house. All New York buzzed. Who was she? Charlotte read in her private room, face darkening. "She's playing our game," she whispered. "She knows the rules." And Adrian, for the first time, felt fear. He tossed the paper, strode to the door. "Where?" Charlotte asked. "To see her," he replied. "If Evelyn wants war, she'll get it." Evelyn knew he'd come. That afternoon, she sat still in the apartment, watching dusk fall on the buildings. A black car stopped below. She didn't move. When the knock sounded, she smoothed her shirt, stepped to open. Adrian stood there, elegant suit, tired, angry eyes. She noticed the wrinkles at his eyes, something she'd ignored when together. "What do you want?" she asked, calm. "To end this. You're destroying everything I built." Evelyn met his gaze. "No, Adrian, I'm just taking back what's mine." He clenched fists, then sneered. "You think you can win in this world? You don't understand it. This world was built by men like you and men like my father," she replied. "You forgot numbers speak, and they're saying you've lost." Adrian fell silent. In the dimming light, his face looked aged, rigid. He turned, hurried down the stairs. Evelyn stood, hand lightly on belly, whispering, This is just the overture, my love. News of Scion surpassing 25% stake exploded Wall Street. On financial channels, anchors speculated the mystery shareholder's identity. Some said Asian fund, others rivals attack on Carrington. No one guessed the storm's eye was the woman slapped publicly in the Ritzmont Hall. 3 days later, per SEC rules, Scion had to file the beneficiary's identity. That day, records went online, and the city held its breath as the name appeared. Evelyn Grace Carrington, controlling shareholder, Scion Holdings Trust. In minutes, Twitter and investment forums erupted. Thousands of posts, millions of shares, hashtags number the slapped wife, number Scion Queen, number Carrington Fall topped national trends. The slapped wife is now husband's biggest shareholder. The priciest revenge story of the year. Evelyn Carrington from victim to power. In the small apartment, Evelyn sat watching the digital storm she directed from the start. She posted nothing, said nothing. Her silence drove media mad. Walter entered, 2 coffees in hand. He set one before her, smiled faintly. You know, in the last 14 hours, shares dropped another 8%. The board's terrified. Evelyn nodded slightly. Good. They need to learn fear. Adrian will come, Walter said. When a man loses power, he blames someone. Evelyn smiled thinly. He can try, but this time, no one can save him, not even his mother. In the penthouse office of Carrington Tower, Charlotte Carrington smashed a crystal glass to the floor, shards echoing. She dares use her name? That little bitch? Adrian sat mute, eyes hollow on the gray sky. She's not the Evelyn mother knew anymore, he said softly. She's changed. Changed? Charlotte whirled, approaching her son. No, you changed. That slap didn't just ruin your image, it made her an icon. She's no longer the weak wife. Now, anything you do, they'll say you're bullying her. Adrian gripped tight, voice choking. I'll take it all back. Charlotte laughed coldly, then learned to fight like her, not with fists, but with power. She signaled her secretary. Prepare emergency board meeting, and get me the proxy shareholder list. I won't let a naive girl topple the Carrington dynasty. That afternoon, as reporters swarmed Scion's building, Evelyn finally emerged. She stepped from the black car, charcoal suit fitted, hair in a neat bun, face serene but eyes blazing. No bodyguards, no escorts. Just her and the crowding press. Mrs. Carrington, planning revenge on your husband? Planning a takeover? Is Scion really your family's? She paused at the glass door, turned, flashes like thunder. No, she said, calm, clear. I'm not revenging anyone. I'm just claiming what's mine. And as the largest shareholder of Carrington Group, I'll ensure it's run with ethics, not arrogance. Then she turned, entered in silence. But minutes later, the video spread across socials. Her voice looped millions of times over epic music. They called her the woman who stood tall, the woman who stood straight. That night, in her private room, Adrian rewatched the video on screen. Blue light aged his face decades. He remembered meeting her, a girl in a bookstore, eyes sparkling with faith. Now those eyes sparkled still, but not for him. The door opened. Charlotte entered, coat still on. The board demands you step down temporarily to protect company reputation. Resist, and they'll vote removal. Adrian stared at her, voice hoarse. And you? You'll let them take it all? She paused seconds, then said word by word, I won't let any Evelyn Carrington take our family company. But to do that, I need you to withdraw. Don't become a burden. Adrian looked, eyes shattered. You're sacrificing your son. And Charlotte turned away, voice steel cold. It's necessary to save the Carringtons. Across the city, Evelyn sat in her new Scion office, gazing through glass at Manhattan's skyline. She got Walter's message. They're calling emergency meeting. Decisive moment. They don't know you've hit over 30%. Evelyn smiled. All right, she said softly. If they want war, I'll bring it right to their boardroom. The top floor of Carrington Tower blazed in the cold autumn morning. The glass boardroom witnessed to billion-dollar decisions now heavy with unusual air. No loud voices, just pen taps, sharp breaths, tense glances. At the table's head, Charlotte Carrington sat regal, silver hair combed neat, makeup hiding a sleepless night. She'd called this to stabilize the company, But all knew, this was the Carrington dynasty's final stand. Adrian sat beside her, face pale, eyes empty. He'd been forced to step back for health reasons, euphemism for defeat. Around the long obsidian table, 8 board members, men who'd fawned over him, now avoided his gaze like a plague carrier. Charlotte spoke, voice low, cold. "Thank you for coming. As you know, our company is in turmoil. I've prepared a restructuring plan to keep Carrington Group leading." She signaled slides. Charlotte plan, Phase 1, stabilize, Phase 2, expand. Beautiful images appeared. Projects, towers, investments, but no one focused. All eyes on the door behind her, where heel clicks echoed. The door opened. Hall light flooded in, and Evelyn entered. Black suit sharp, hair pinned high, heels tapping like a countdown clock. Conversations died. Charlotte turned, face marble white. "You're not allowed here," she hissed through teeth. Evelyn didn't stop. She placed a thick folder on the table, eyes scanning faces. "I am," she said calmly. "Per SEC disclosure rules, shareholders over 30% have rights to attend and vote in all board meetings. And as you know," she paused, lips curving slightly, "I'm now the largest shareholder in Carrington Group." Murmurs rippled. Bernard Lowe, board chair, stammered, "You are Scion?" Evelyn nodded. "I am Scion." Charlotte leaped up, slamming the table. "What the hell is this? You think you can waltz in and—" "Mrs. Carrington," Evelyn cut in, sharp but not loud. "I advise you to sit. You're in your room but no longer in your position." A wave of silence exploded invisibly. Charlotte slowly sank back, face twisted in rage. Walter Hemsworth, accompanying Evelyn, stood, placing documents before each member. "This is the Scion Holdings proposal for restructuring and salvaging Carrington Group," he said. "The proposal includes immediate removal of Mrs. Charlotte Carrington and Mr. Adrian Carrington from all executive positions for severe violations of shareholder rights and business ethics." Charlotte laughed coldly. "You really think they'll listen to an outsider?" Evelyn scanned the table, voice lowering, each word a knife. "No, they'll listen to self-interest. They've lost nearly half stock value in 3 months. Under your management, Carrington Group's become a sinking ship. I bring opportunity survival." She signaled. The screen lit, plunging stock charts, leaked funds, fake Miranda Vale contracts, all in cold light. Evelyn continued. "I didn't come for revenge. I came to cleanse. Carrington Group was once an empire. I'll make it a company worthy of its workers again." Bernard eyed the docs, then Charlotte. He hesitated, then softly, "Mrs. Charlotte, evidence to refute these allegations." Charlotte opened her mouth. No sound. Photos of Miranda and Adrian at the resort, payments, transfers, all staring back. She knew. Checkmate. Evelyn said softly, "Time to vote." Bernard nodded, voice trembling. "Those in favor of the Scion proposal, removing Mrs. Charlotte and Mr. Adrian Carrington from all executive roles?" Hands rose. Slow. Heavy. 1, 2, 3, 8. No opposition. Adrian looked around, face ashen. As Bernard lowered the last hand, his voice boomed like a coffin nail. "Proposal. Passed." Charlotte slumped, lips trembling. You don't know what you've done," she whispered. "You've destroyed this family." "Andly." Evelyn leaned down, eye to eye, voice breath-light. "No, Charlotte. I just saved it from you." She straightened, gathered files, turned away. Walter followed, while the city's most powerful men sat stunned. The glass door closed behind her, reflecting a woman walking straight-backed who'd toppled a dynasty with resolve and intellect alone. Night fell on the Westchester suburb, the Carrington mansion dim in pale gold light. Light rain streaked windows like blood trails on glass. In the living room, Charlotte sat silent by the fireplace, brandy untouched. Beside her, a woman with fiery red hair and a smile thin as a blade, Miranda Vale. "She did it," Miranda said, half amazed, half scornful. "Kicked both mother and son out in one meeting. I have to admit Evelyn Carrington has guts." Charlotte looked up, eyes steel. "Not guts, delusion. She thinks a few shares let her rule this empire. But the Carrington empire wasn't built on numbers. It was built by those who get their hands dirty when needed." Miranda chuckled softly. Guessing you need someone like that? Charlotte set the glass down, leaning toward her. You slept with my son, took company money. Now redeem yourself. Help me crush Evelyn. Miranda raised a brow. I'm listening. Charlotte opened a dossier. Photos of Evelyn leaving Sterling Trust, leaked financials, copies of share purchases through layered shells. We'll turn her into a traitor. She won't be the victim anymore, but the mastermind behind market manipulation, using Scion funds to illegally seize Carrington. Miranda whistled softly. Media counterattack. But we need proof or something that looks like it. Charlotte sipped. I have people in the SEC inspections. They owe favors. And you, Miranda, you'll be the face. The woman, Evelyn exploited. You want me to play victim? No. The whistleblower. A smirk on Miranda's lips. A traitor betraying the traitor. I like it. Charlotte stood, gazing out where city lights twinkled distant. She thinks she's won, but she forgets in this world. Public opinion builds empires, and burns them too. 3 days later, Global Business News morning show opened with a shocker. Evelyn Carrington, accused of insider trading in Scion Holdings, Carrington stake buy. Exclusive source, Miranda Vale, claims Evelyn leaked confidential info to manipulate stocks. Screens flooded with Evelyn leaving Scion HQ, stern eyes edited beside red bold. Manipulator or hero? Miranda's interview looped on channels. I thought she was a victim, Miranda said, voice choked with acting. But she deceived everyone. Scion isn't her father's fund. It's her tool for power, and now she's hiding something bigger. Opinion flipped like a cold wind. Papers that praised Evelyn turned skeptical. Is Mrs. Carrington too clever? Avenging woman or sophisticated market manipulator? In Scion office, Walter read, face tense. Charlotte struck, he said. They're prepping SEC investigation filing. If this spreads, stocks freefall. Evelyn set the paper down, eyes calm but deep. I expected this move. Walter surprised. You knew they'd attack? Of course. The Carringtons only have two weapons, power and fear. They've lost power, so now fear. But we'll turn their fear into a blade reversed. She went to her desk, opened the computer, typed commands. Screen showed encrypted original Scion files. My father left the originals legally registered 20 years ago, fully transparent. One click to publicize all. End quote. Walter uneasy. If you do, you expose your whole strategy. Evelyn looked up. I know, but I'm not fighting in shadows anymore. I'll let them see the light and know they've lost. That evening, at the Astoria Hotel's finance fundraiser, Charlotte appeared with Miranda. Press swarmed, flashes blinding. Charlotte fake smiled, spoke on business ethics. The hall applauded. But mid-speech climax, LED screens flickered, switched to live press conference from Scion HQ. Evelyn at the podium, lights on her calm face. You can call me anything, she said, voice clear, firm. But one thing, I'm not a liar. Here are legal records confirming Scion Holdings founded by my father, Thomas Grace, over 20 years ago. And here proof of lawful asset transfer. I seized nothing, I protected my legacy. Screens showed dozens of docs, SEC stamps, bank certs. Reporters gasped. Keyboard clacks like rain. At Astoria, Charlotte's face hardened. Miranda's wine glass slipped, shattering. She went public with everything, Miranda whispered. Charlotte ground teeth, eyes blazing. No, she won one round. The battle's long. That morning, New York shrouded in thin fog, sun dimmed by glass towers. Scion HQ quiet as a church amid economic chaos. Evelyn entered office, hair tied back, coffee in hand, usual poise. But on her desk, amid neat files, an unmarked envelope. No stamp, no postmark, just thick white paper folded. Evelyn hesitated a second, opened. Inside, a handwritten note in black ink. You may win in the light, Evelyn, but remember, every dynasty has shadows. An old friend of your father. Beside the words, a strange symbol, a circle with 3 intersecting diagonals like an ancient sigil or underground finance logo. Walter entered soon after, saw her staring. What is it? Evelyn showed him. Walter read, face paling. Damn, where'd you get this? On the desk. This morning. He sat, pensive. Evelyn, ever hear your father mention the Orion Group? She frowned. No. Who are they? Walter sighed, as if deciding to reveal a long-held secret. Orion's a shadow financial organization. Not a corporation. A network those behind world's big funds. Your father worked for them, before leaving for a simple life. And this symbol, he pointed at the circle with diagonals, is their mark. Evelyn silent. Everything whirled. You mean my father was part of a secret finance cabal? Not just part. Walter met her eyes. He was their chief strategist. He helped build Orion's blind fund model's money circling the globe untraceable. But he left, seeing that power devour souls. Evelyn sat mute, holding the paper. So, if he left them, why come back now? Walter replied, voice low. Perhaps because of Scion. You don't know. Evelyn's Scion isn't just a legacy fund. It's a missing piece of Orion. Control Scion, and you hold what they lost. The room fell silent. Faint memories surged. Father at his desk. Yellow lamp. Pages of financial symbols she didn't understand. He'd said, one day, you'll need to know not every system wants the light. Now she knew. That afternoon, while Walter met lawyers, Evelyn stayed alone. She reopened Father's Scion files. At the end of one, his small note. If you read this, you've faced them. Remember, power never truly vanishes. It just changes hands. Then her computer screen lit. Anonymous email from encrypted address. Orion@cryptum.io. No subject, no signature, just attachment. Evelyn hesitated. Opened. Video from Carrington HQ security cam before the fateful meeting. Adrian arguing with a suited man, face shadowed. His voice cold. She's just a pawn, Adrian. When she's done, we'll take Scion back. You know the deal. Evelyn held breath. The voice, chillingly familiar. Then he looked up, light grazing his face. Walter. Everything stopped. Breath choked. She rewound, stared close. No mistake him, her father's best friend, mentor, who helped her defeat the Carringtons. She stood, stepped back, hands shaking. Impossible. Walter? Her phone buzzed then. Message from Anonymous. You're on the right path, Evelyn. But trust no one, not even those named Hemsworth. She dropped the phone, cold sweat down her spine. Outside, afternoon red poured in, half lighting her face, half bright, half dark. She whispered, Dad, what game am I playing? That night, as the city lit up, Evelyn left Scion HQ, entered the black car. But this time, not home. She told the driver, to Sterling Tower, floor 47, where Walter waited, unaware the old friend's daughter held the peace he thought he controlled. That night, the city never slept. On Scion Tower's top floor, Evelyn stood before the vast window, gazing down endless New York lights. Below, tiny people chased power and money, things that once knelt her. Now, they were wings to fly. She'd beaten Adrian, toppled Charlotte, exposed Miranda. But deep down, Evelyn knew, the real enemy was never out there. It was what she'd feared in her self-weakness, blind trust, the illusion justice could be bought with morals. She looked at the ultrasound photo pinned on the desk, smiled. My love, Mom didn't win from hate. Mom won by learning to rise. From the laptop, the anonymous Orion email appeared again. Evelyn didn't open. She shut down, unplugged, whispered, No one controls me anymore. Outside, dawn gilded the horizon. A new day rose, and with it, the promise that from betrayal's ashes, a true queen had awakened. If you've ever been humiliated, don't try to go back to who you were. Become the one they never dare touch again. Want to see Evelyn face the Shadow One in Part 2? Leave a comment below and join me in the next chapter of Zion, the Rise of a Fallen Queen.